Hi, my name is Hailey Arias, and I am a graduating senior of the class of 2021. My future plans are to attend Stetson, majoring in political science, and eventually going into criminal law.
Hi, my name is Amy. I am in fifth grade. I attend MBES, and my future goal is to be a vet and work with animals. Hi, my name is Isabell Wingfield. I am in fifth grade at MBES. My future goal is to become an astronomer.
My name is Shann Purinton, and Shann is short for Shirley Ann. Does anybody know who Shirley Temple was?
Yes.
Okay. My mother named me after Shirley Temple. But when I grew up, I decided I'd put the two names together. So I created my own name. I wanted my own name. So I like Shirley Temple, but anyway, so Shann Purinton. Purinton is my husband's last name, of course. I tried to talk him into taking my last name, but it was 50 years ago. We've been married 50 years, so this year. Let's see, I grew up here in Palatka, and I went to school through K through 12. I went to the community college, and I got my 2-year degree there, and then I went on to University of South Carolina. And I got a couple more degrees there, because once I figured out education was like a good thing to do, and I did well in it, I said, okay, let me just do as much as I can. And I would advise you, like you're doing now, focus on your education, because it is the key to helping you achieve those goals, truly. I grew up, and I'll go ahead and tell you this, I was poor. We lived in a little trailer. It did not have a bathroom in it. It was 8 feet wide, so that's about from here to that chalkboard. And it was 25 feet long, so that's not, it's nowhere near the length of this. That was our house. My brother and I and my mom and dad lived in it. But two things. One is education. They focused on that. My brother went on to get an MD. He's a doctor at the University of Florida. And I went on eventually. I left off there at South Carolina, but I went to FSU and I got a PhD. Again, because I knew it was something that would help me to do more things in my life. So I did that. And then I met my husband. Oh, the second most important thing in your life is whoever you choose to spend you can be your partner, your best friend, whatever it is, or your husband or whatever. But that person is really important. So choose somebody who's going to work with you to reach your goals, not somebody who's going to be jealous or pull away or whatever. Okay, so I met him, and then we finished up our degrees together, went to Canada, because we wanted to do something different. And at that time, the educational system in Canada was asking American educators to come up and help them. So we did, and it was great. We lived there for 4 years, loved it, learned how to do all kinds of snow things. And then after 2 children were born, I realized I missed my family. So we said, well, we better get back to Florida because snow is fun, but after you get snowed in a few times, if you've ever experienced snow, well, it is fun, but after several months of it, you say, I remember Florida. I remember how you could go outside. Anyway, so we came back, and I came right back where I started, to Palatka, because I got a job here teaching. And so I was a teacher, and so my husband told me we'd stay 1 year because he had never lived in a town this small. And he said, we'll stay here 1 year. This is 1977. How many years ago was that? A bunch. Anyway, and I think now he's even more, he loves Palatka, he loves this county, he loves nature, he loves the smaller things. So we lived here. I went on from teaching. I went on to the college. Since I had a degree, it kind of opened the doors there to be a college administrator. And then I was able to help lots of students do lots of things to help them to get their careers in line. Because again, going to a community college is a great idea. Stetson's a wonderful school. My son went straight to a university. My daughter went through the community college system. So each of you should decide what is best for you. And it'll have to do with your finances, where you live, your goals, like what you want to study. Anyway, so we did that, and then I worked there, and then I retired. I found I could do that. Some other people will do that eventually. And my dad used to tell me, when you retire, you won't know how you had time to work. And you know what? He was right. Because there's so many things that you enjoy doing and now I can do. And I think one of your questions I peeked ahead was, how did I get involved with the environment? It was kind of an accident. Like I told you all, I came here, I was working a little job with water management, and I just thought, wow, this is such a neat place. And so I began to learn more and more. So over the last 10, 15 years, I have really grown in my awareness of how important we are to the environment. And so it's been, again, and once you're an educator, it's kind of in your heart, and you find ways to keep that going. And so even having you here today is part of it. So thank you.
What inspired you to start your career?
I thought I was going to be an interpreter at the UN. So I majored in languages. I majored in French, I took Russian, I took Latin, I took lots of languages. And it did help in Canada, because Canada is a bilingual country. They do have French and English. But it's interesting, that was what I chose, but along the way, other doors would open. And I'm one of those people that if it feels right, then I go through that door. And usually it is something then that just kind of, because you do know in your heart of hearts what is the right thing to do for you. But you have to be kind of quiet and listen.
What was your major?
Okay, first I started with French and the languages, and then I went into student personnel services because that door opened. I worked in a dorm at the college, and the dean of women said, why don't you go ahead and do this? And I thought, oh, why not? So I did, and then I went on from there to get a PhD in educational administration. And again, this is because I went with my husband to FSU, and he was doing that. I was going to go to Massachusetts and major in something totally different, but I went there and I thought, well, I'll just apply to graduate school. I had all my letters now in order. I'd made good grades. I kept things in good order so that the doors, when they opened, I could walk through. So that's what I'm saying to you. Keep your grades up, do the best you can, and it'll happen. I mean, it's beautiful. And even, I know we've looked a little at the gender inequity, it's getting better and better for you all. I remember when we first moved to Canada, I had exactly the same degree as my husband. He got the job, but then he was asked to apply in the same department. The guy interviewing me, who I thought was pretty open-minded, he says, well, we can't pay you the same thing that we pay your husband. We're going to have to pay you several $1,000s less. That's just the way it is. They don't do that much these days, especially husband and wife, because we probably wouldn't stand for it. But back then, you just kind of accepted it. You were like glad to have a job. So I'm just saying, as women, you are at a good time. Doors are really being opened in good ways. So, and look for, like you have done, other women who were. This is what you're all about right now, right? Yeah. Like, how did we get to where we are?
What's your biggest accomplishment?
Oh, goodness. Usually something like family comes to mind because that is a big project. When you have children, you're committed for 20 plus years. And we made sure our children's education was taken care of. We did what's the school program where you can prepaid tuition for
honors?
And they then participated in things right. And so that probably is it, the biggest accomplishment. I'm gonna have to think. Can I get back to you on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Before you were younger, did you dream of pursuing a career in environmental education?
No, but I will say, looking back at it now, I remember spending lots, that little trailer I was talking about? You didn't stay in that little trailer long. You were outside playing. We built forts, we climbed trees, we just did all kinds of things outside. So I would say that kind of set the tone for it, and maybe in a way I didn't even know how to articulate that it put me in the environmental kind of realm.
What specifically do you do for helping out the community?
Oh my goodness.
Lots.
Yeah, okay, let's just talk about right now. I'm involved in Rotary, and Rotary's main mission is what? What's our motto?
To serve others.
Exactly. So service above self. So we have a lot of projects. In fact, this morning before I came here, I was at the county public works offices, and they're doing a blood screening thing to help people to identify things in their blood that might help them to forego any kind of medical issues. I'm working now too with baby brain builders. Have you all heard of that?
I've heard of them.
Oh, good, okay. Well, baby brain builders, and this is real important for y'all to know, because do you think you'll be a mom someday? Maybe. I know, I was like you. I was like, if I'll adopt them. I don't want to have any children. But I did, and I was glad. And now I have 5 grandchildren. I didn't tell you that part. Yeah, they're wonderful. We have lots of fun. Anyway, but baby brain builders, from the age of 0, when you're born, and maybe even before you're born, while you're still in utero, to 3 years old, 85% of your brain neural pathways are being developed. And the way they're developed is not just sitting around. They're developed just like we're doing now, interacting. In fact, they have what they call the 3 T's. And it's tune in, because little people, have you ever noticed little babies? They like to watch you talking to them. So tune in, talk more. They say 30 million words is what that little person needs between 0 and 3. Sounds like a lot of words, but even right now, I've probably done 30 million talking to y'all. So for those first 3 years, very important. So tune in, talk more, and take turns. Even though that little person might be saying goo goo gaga, they're interacting, and it's important. And I've seen videos of those neural pathways, and they literally just kind of connect and join up. And if you don't do that during those, you'll plateau off at about the 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade. You will be able to learn, but it will not be, especially in languages, in math, anything. So just that to me is now my big passion. You can hear it. And because if we can help people know that, it's so easy. Just sing to them, read them a story at night, do whatever. Any little people you're around. And even as they get older, that's okay. That's good too. Okay. And I do cleanups and all kinds of other things.
So you told us earlier that you apply for a job and they can pay you as much. So is there anything else that was hard for you to start your career as a woman?
Yeah, but I'm not one of those that sees myself as a victim. And I think that's important, because I've experienced, and I don't know what this is on, but I've had date rape happen to me. But what I did with that situation, I was in college, is I looked at it, and the person, it was like, I felt like I could have changed the way that developed, and that empowered me, so that it didn't happen again, obviously. I'm smart enough to learn how not to put myself in those positions. Now, it's not to say that things can happen to people and you don't have any control over it, no, but I just don't see myself as a victim. So from that gender inequity thing, yes, there have been a number of things. I was like the first woman in our Rotary Club. And I really didn't think much of it until they introduced me that first time. The guy that was my sponsor, he says, well, they didn't throw anything at you. And I'm like, are you serious? And he was kind of kidding, but there are some parts, you kind of wonder. So yes, I have experienced it. But I also, some of those same people that didn't want me in there eventually became my biggest supporters. So it almost makes me teary. That to me is what life is about. It is making me teary. So that you can take something that is a challenge, but then turn it into something that's good for all the parties. Not just, oh, I beat him up or I did whatever it is. That's not really what it's about.
Is gender inequality an issue in your workplace?
Well, because I don't have a full-time job, and because I have created this world with volunteers that are very, they're very forward-thinking people, mostly men. They're mostly men. But like my husband, he's one that really supports. He comes when I ask him to help out here. So it is definitely still an issue. But in my world right now, it isn't. Because I have managed to kind of get past it. But yes, it is still an issue. So I don't want to downplay that at all.
What roles do you have as a chairperson of the advisory group?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Our setup here is we have an advisory group. Somebody must have looked online or whatever. Very good research. And so it's kind of like a board, like a school board or a business, an organization that has an advisory board. So you have a smaller group of people that make the big decisions, and then you have members. So on the advisory board, we look at what is the overall goal of Waterworks. And so my role is to meet with them at least a couple, 3 times a year. And we have people from the school board, we have people from GP, because this to me is this is a resource that can be used in lots of ways. COVID has kind of interrupted it. Like in Interlaken, the Interlaken elementary 5th graders came here every year for 5 years for their field trip. And so, yeah, so there, those are the kinds of things that we as a board, we build on and we want to make happen. So my job really though, is to make them feel good about their role because they're all volunteers. They're not paid to be here. And so, like yesterday, I took them all out to lunch. Not that you have to pay them to do that, but you want to build a network. You want to build relationships. Like when you get right down to it in this world, like Miss Nancy and I go way back, and you have interactions that will, like maybe when you get through Stetson, you'll come back and say, I remember when, like you remember Mr. France, and now you remember me. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, but yeah, so relationship building is part of that board. It's kind of, they wouldn't probably say that, but I'm saying it. So there you go.
So on the topic of volunteers, what are some ways you recruit them, and have you found it a challenge to recruit some of them?
Absolutely. Have you heard this saying? I'm sure Miss Nancy and Susan have. Different groups are like cats, and you're trying to herd them. Any of you ever tried to herd cats? Is that possible? Not really. So you just kind of want to. With volunteers, you want to make it something that they feel involved and engaged in, that they can relate to. Like we give nicknames to some of our volunteers. We have one guy, he loves to walk the trails, so we call him the Trail Master. We have one fella that built all those kiosks, we call him Bob the Builder. So there are ways that we just kind of make it fun. Life should be fun. We should be enjoying ourselves. So yeah, that's what I do.
What are some of your strategies when recruiting volunteers?
Okay. Well, like you didn't notice it today, but I said, if y'all are ever want to volunteer, or when people retire, I'll say, come out and visit us, because there are things that you can, and what I try really hard is once they come, because we've had volunteers come, and they'll be here for once or twice, and they don't find something that they relate to. And so part of me says, well, that's okay, it's not for everybody. But another part of me says, did I work hard enough? Did I really try to line up? Like we have one retired elementary teacher from Melrose, and she's the one who writes these lists in here. She's fabulous at that. She's made a discovery box over here. So it's important to find with anybody the things that they feel some ownership in. And so that's
When you were working towards your doctorate, did you ever experience any challenges?
yes.
And wanting to give up?
Yes, absolutely. I remember sitting in the middle of the floor with all my dissertation stuff around me and going, I can't do this. I just can't do this. I can't. And that's when, remember how I told you it's important, that other person that's going to be your cheerleader? My husband goes, just talk to me. Just tell me what it is you have? What have you found? What have you discovered? And so he just talked me through it, and I got it done. In fact, we both finished in 2 years.
So, what advice would you give to someone new to your field of work?
Okay, to this field of work, if you choose an environmental field of work, you will probably be choosing it because it's something you love, you have a passion about. Now, if you need to make money, find a place in it where you can do that. And there are lots of places. There's, research and marine stuff, and water is huge. There are all kinds of jobs in that. So I would just say, kind of continue to explore the different areas and keep your passion alive. Because the ultimate thing, money, that's why I retired. I could have stayed in the system and made, more money. My retirement would have been a whole lot more a month. But in the long run, your life and how you enjoy your life is much more important. But you have to have some money to live.
What do you do in your free time?
Oh my goodness, I travel. But I haven't been able to do that recently. But I've been to all 7 continents, including Antarctica. So, and I highly recommend that, highly. Africa, Machu Picchu, Japan, it's like education on steroids. I mean, it's just fabulous. So, do you all have any countries you'd like to go visit or been to? Paris, oh yes. I remember standing on the streets in Paris and going, I'm here, I'm really here. Because you see all the pictures in the boats, Eiffel Tower and all that. Yeah, be sure to do that. Okay. What about you, Isabell?
I would like to go to Paris.
Okay, maybe y'all go together, your senior trip. Just you have to dream. How about you?
Europe.
Okay, yes. A lot of people, they don't do it so much now, but they would backpack around Europe. Our daughter backpacked around Australia and New Zealand for a year. So I'm not recommending it because you have to have a lot of whatever, but I will say if it's something that you think you might like. And then there are ways to do it safely. There are many ways to do it safely.
But how did your college change your understanding of the world?
It expanded my mind in lots of ways. People ways, knowledge ways, even knowing myself kind of thing. Yeah.
What is your favorite part of your job or anything?
Right now, no, seriously, interacting with young people is definitely my favorite part of the job.
Everybody makes mistakes. What would you say has been one of your biggest mistakes, and how did you fix it?
We all make mistakes, and I'm one of those that beats myself up a lot when I realize it. So I would say probably, I can't think of a thing, but when I do know that I did something that hurt somebody, or I wasn't as good as I thought I should be, if I give a talk, or even after I'm with you all today, I'll say, oh, I should have said this, or I should have thought of that, is not to let it stay with me. Just kind of know I did the best I can, and I will go forward. And I think that's good advice for me and for everybody.
Who do you look up to, or used to look up to?
Okay, yeah, that's good. Oh gosh, just recently, it's going to sound funny, but I really admire Oprah Winfrey because she has done a lot of things to really promote some of the same things that, for women especially women of color. And I also think she's very wise. So I've been listening, she and a fellow named, have you ever heard of Deepak Chopra?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Okay. They offer sometimes different series, meditations and things, and I love the TED Talks. Are you familiar with those?
I know. Is it on Facebook?
It might be. They might put them on Facebook. Yeah, but they have a lot of people on there that are from all over the world, and they do talks about anything that is going to uplift us as a human species, and so it's amazing. So I like Albert Einstein, as a person, I don't know if he would have been one of my favorites, but I certainly admire his mind and his ability, like his views of death. A lot of people don't know that, but he looks at it from a cosmic perspective, and the fact that we've created time and space. So if you think of death, it's outside of that, and he writes about really, it's amazing. So here's the thing too, you'll come across books and people that you want to follow up on, and at first I would say, oh gosh, I forgot to do that, I was going to read that book. It'll come back around. And so just know that your life has a pattern to it, and you just kind of listen, like I said before, and it'll do great. Lots of people around us, though, that are full of wisdom. You'll feel it. Okay.
Do you have any long-term goals for the Waterworks Environmental Education Center?
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I think I was just telling somebody earlier this morning.
Manatees, do you want to?
Yeah, that's well, I'm not sure. Do you think that's realistic? I'm kind of like you. It seems like a little place for them. Yeah. Anyway, long-term goals. I would like to. Did I tell you all how old I am?
No.
How old do you think I am? Well, that's a trick question, right? Nancy, how old do you think I am?
I don't know, but I know I'm 62 almost.
Okay.
So.
I will be 74 this year.
What?
So.
I thought we were the same age.
Anyway, and I don't worry about that, but I do know that at some point I can't be here. So my long-term goal is to somehow figure a way that this can not just sustain itself, but to grow and to be the resource that I feel it to be. I mean, it's just such a perfect. I've seen 20 turkeys up on the hill, and the animal life. So maybe when y'all get older, you could come back here. In fact, there are some groups of students, FFA from QI Roberts. They have a plot in the garden, and I'm not joking when I tell them when they get through college and university, please come back to Palatka and do some things to help us to keep the good things that we have going on. Because the quality of life, again, that's kind of, this to me represents so much in terms of the history and the nature and the animal life. So my goal is that it would continue somehow or another, even when I'm dead.
How do you manage your time?
Oh, that's a
Calendars, probably.
I do, very good. Yes, I have you on here for today, 11 to 1 o'clock, so we're getting close to the time, right? Yes, a list, I do lists, and I do little reminders on my calendar. My husband and I, every morning, we talk about what are the big things you're going to have to do. But time management is a critical factor. When you go to college or university, that is the number one reason that students fail. Number one. Because brilliant students go to the University of Florida, 50% of them in their freshman year will be gone. And the reason is parties and the different things that come in to steal their time, so they don't dedicate the time to their studies. So just remember that. It's good to have fun, but balance it with getting that education that I mentioned. So time management, I'm always wishing I had more time. But generally speaking, those are the tools that I use.
Who is the biggest influence in helping you start your career?
Probably my husband, just because he was there. He just helped me to sort out the different paths and to make sure I stayed on track, like I told you. Look into nature and you will understand everything better.
Why is that your favorite book?
It just is intriguing in terms of, well, what do you want to look into in nature? So all kinds of visions come to mind. But the idea of nature, it does what it does without a calendar, without any of this stuff. It just does. And so that it's that you can't put into words. Nature is just doing it all the time. So that's why I like that quote. And I think if we tuned into that more, And we're doing it better and better, but if we tuned into it even more, we'd be happier and more peaceful, just like flowers are and birds.
Do you currently have a mentor?
Probably, but I hadn't thought about that, but I am going to be looking around and seeing. I think each of us can be mentors to each other, and there are times when I'll talk to, again, my husband or my mom. My mom is 91, and I'll just ask her, like, how would you handle this? And it may not be what I choose to, but when you hear it, you'll know. You know, I keep going back to that. And I do pray, and I do have a spiritual kind of whatever, so I won't say it's a mentor, but it's a way to check with your guidance system.
Thank you. I think that's it for today.
Did y'all come up with your questions? They were excellent. Really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this time.